I'd like to introduce Trevor Blaszczyk. He is an online marketing expert, and he's the CEO of Solace Solutions, and also has a podcast called Mind Over Matter. Trevor, it's great to meet you. I understand you're also an Army veteran. You've dealt with helicopters and you've had a couple of tours. Let's start with a little bit about your Army background.
Yeah, so out of high school, didn't really know where I wanted to go, didn't know what I wanted to do. Always been good with computers, never touched a wrench, and somehow ended up in helicopter maintenance. Couldn't have asked for a better opportunity. I ended up in special operations, went overseas a couple times. It was a blast. I explored the world a little bit, got to see pretty much the most diverse group of people out there. There's no group more diverse than the Army, and I grew up in a small town in south suburbs of Chicago. So I was lucky enough to experience just about every type of person out there and explore the world. But that was the goal.
Let's say you've gained a world perspective. For
Right.
sure. Sounds good. What's the story behind Solace Solutions? How did you get started and what's the purpose behind it? And do you specialize in something in that? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so really the biggest reason for starting Solace Solutions is we started the mental health podcast before it, and then that's how we ended up with the name Solace, just trying to help people in their depressed state or whatever it may be. And I've always wanted to get into real estate a little bit. I always wanted to learn more. I was lucky enough to meet John Rakowski, and he introduced me to the field. And I'm handling the computer operations side of real estate for just about anyone that I can. We started it to help realtors. It seems like there's just a kind of a lack of training on the computer side of things, and knowing that the average realtor is about 55 years old. I figured they might not, even if they were getting the training, they might not be fortunate enough to understand the training. So I just wanted to get like a done for you lead generation system up for realtors so that when they show up to their broker or whoever it may be, hopefully it's EXP, when they sign up with their broker, whoever it may, they get a lead generation system as well. So it's not just signing up under leadership, you're also signing up under someone who can help provide a system, which is the biggest thing I learned in the Army is get a system in place. Learn the system, get it in place, and if you just keep refining, there's no way it goes wrong. So that was the biggest thing when creating Solve Solutions.
So it is lead generation, and you have a tie-in with P Realty that you mentioned. Sounds good. That's definitely a need. Are you seeing any difference with the real estate market, the way it's been going? Are you still able to find buyers and leads, sellers, and that sort of thing? Both
Yeah,
sides of the coin. Some people wants to sell and get a listing, and other people concentrate on the other side.
yeah, it goes both ways. That's why what we have set up right now is for the buyer and sellers. The market is crazy. People are scared to get into it. We all know what happened the past couple of years. So it is a little spooky, but it's still real estate. Everyone still needs to buy a house. Everyone still needs to sell a house. Nothing's changing, and it won't change for a while. So it does get a little fishy, and that's why something like us, a system in place to handle those objections and to handle something as crazy as COVID is kind of how you get around it. There's buyers and sellers everywhere you go, and just getting your face out there and getting known is probably the hardest thing as a realtor. That's why they end up going to social media and all these crazy things. It all switched to the online space. Is the biggest switch is with COVID. Everyone wants to stay at home, work from home, do all these home things. So not many people are driving down the block looking for the open house signs anymore. So you want to start putting an ad on the biggest platform, the internet. You reach way more people on the internet than you could if you walk down your cul-de-sac.
Do you use social media in advertising in generating leads? It seems like you have a more focused professional angle on it than a typical realtor does.
Right, right. And yeah, you could still do the postcards and all that stuff. That's still an option. I'm not doubting that those work or anything. I know they do work, but it's all about return of investment and all the crazy numbers we all talk about. So it does get a little hectic, but it is the much better way in today's age in 2023 to get online, get your face known to everybody. Yes, it's a much more professional. Some people don't like getting that little postcard in the mail or whatever it may be, so.
Yeah, yeah, junk mail, in other words, and treat it that way. They may take one glance at it, and that's the end of it. That's true. But you're looking for that one person that responds and that you do reach. And, there's a cost to that. And there's thousands of postcards that might go out just to get that one client. Hopefully it's a few hundred versus a few thousand, just how effective you can be.
Right. And
Sounds like you got a little bit better handle on that than when you mentioned a return on investment, because that's certainly something they're going to look at. And you're working in the most critical, most needed space there, because that's what they need is just a good flow of leads and building relationships with people.
yeah,
That's
right. The new system, it kind of weeds out all those bad prospects that you might be accidentally sending that mail to. When
yeah.
we all know how the algorithm is kind of crazy. When you say something, it pops up. Everyone's talking about houses, and if it's a realtor, they're talking about it all day. We know our phones are listening. So the people that are talking about it and need it, those are the people that it's going to show up on their timeline, the people that have been looking for a house or thinking about selling for the last couple months. That's the kind of people that Facebook weeds into our algorithm. We don't have to go to each house thinking that they're looking to sell or something like that anymore.
Or targeted reach, would you say?
Yeah, it's more targeted reach and it's automated. Yes. That's one of the things. It's 2023, automation's taken over. It's not necessarily Chat GPT like, but in the business
Yeah.
world, it's pretty similar. It's changing the game for sure. Automation, everyone knows it's changing the game, and this type of system it's going to help every realtor. You don't necessarily have time as a realtor to go walk around and show everyone every house. So and then while you're showing
Right.
those houses, you can't answer your phone either. So you kind of got to get a system in place while you're with this one client showing, whatever open house throughout the week, or even if you're at the open house for how long, you're not able to answer your phone as much. So getting the automated texts and the automated phone calls right to your phone is a lot easier.
That sounds like it cuts a lot of the chatter out of it and it makes it easier to perform when the realtors are in front of people and showing them houses. The limited
Right.
time and the cost of driving around these days and time, there's some overhead involved there. So you're actually cutting their overhead in a way that's built right into your system.
Right.
So anyone in real estate could use your system. Is that right?
Right, right. And it's a little tailored towards more of the people. And this is why I brought up the EXP. They have a great system for people trying to up their game and start kind of their own brokerage, become the leader. So it's tailored toward that, but it's also tailored towards the new 2 years deep into real estate agent who needs that help. It's you get everybody in the mix.
So with you, the realtors and real estate people are getting that help, that ramping up period when they've only got 2 years in, and that's probably when they hit the wall a little bit. They've run through everybody they know by then, and they need some stronger traction, and that sounds like what you provide. But you also provide a little bit of heart behind all of the system itself. You've got a mission and a purpose behind you, and you show that heart through that podcast. Could you tell me a little bit about mind over matter, what it means, and how you're able to reach people and when they're probably in a state of mind where they need the help?
Yeah, so my hairs are standing up already because it means that much to me. I hit an extremely low point once I got out of the military. Suicidal thoughts every day. Was in my car with, the gun on my lap, and been to that place where, it just doesn't feel right even living. It doesn't feel like you're going anywhere. It doesn't, and it's about your feeling. It truly is, whether you are or you aren't. It's about how you feel. And I didn't really have too many people to turn to. I had my close knit group and I had my family, but I know sadly not the family rate is going down now. So, the close knit families and the support groups, they're kind of going away. And those young men who don't have someone to go to end up on the suicide list. And it's just, if I didn't have my little brother who would answer the phone for me, who knows, I might not be here on this call with you. So it just hitting that situation. And then my first leader, when I got out of the military, I was working a part-time job. And he said, man, you got to get something going. How would you feel about a mental health podcast? And from there it stemmed. And the goal from that was to provide a community for people who don't have that support system, who can't pull up their phone and call someone when they're on the bridge, holding the gun to their head, whatever it may be. They can't contact anyone. And to me, it was the craziest thing because in today's world, it's never been easier to contact anyone. I haven't met you at once, right? You're all the way out there. I'm nowhere near you, but I hopped on this call. I met you yesterday and you've already changed my life. You got me to start writing a book. You got me to hop on this call and get me out there. And a year ago, that was not who I was. There's no way that's where I would have been. So I just wanted to provide that first step to getting into a community, getting your feelings out into a safe, comfortable spot, and it's just there's not too many places providing something like that right now. And that's what I was saying. It kind of transferred over to Solace Solutions, and that's where we got the name Solace, helping someone in their time of need when they're depressed, scared, uncomfortable, in that moment of despair. They don't know where to go. And in real estate, that's they end up you could end up being 8 or what is it, 20, 2 years into your real estate career, you could be 20 and completely lost because you thought this might be the right route. It might not be, it might be. But if you don't have a system up for it, it's going to feel like it's not the right route. It's going to feel like you're not doing the right thing to succeed. And then you're going to kind of upset about it. And the world needs to be a happier place in general. And that's the biggest goal.
Wow. That's, let me just start there with a wow. That's quite a lot you've taken on, actually. How do you take a person who's out there in the water and get that life preserver out to them where they'll actually grab the life preserver? How do you go from lost to being found? What I mean by found, it sounds like giving guys purpose again.
Right. And that was our biggest episode, is our purpose episode. I think it's number 7.
Really?
Just because I didn't even think of something like that when I got out of the military. I didn't think I would need a new purpose. It didn't click in my head like that. It just didn't click. And then when I got home, I started looking up some stoicism actually. And Marcus Aurelius is one of his first questions is, what is your purpose? So I wrote it on my mirror, and slowly but sure, I started building up something again. And just that quote, writing it on my mirror, it was hard for me to sit in my room all day not doing anything and look at that quote and think, man, maybe I just don't have one, which is, it's not true. But even that thought in my head, it was coming in my head for some reason, and I don't know where it came from.
Well, that statement, putting it on the mirror, is taking action. It may seem to be a very small thing, but when you put something of meaning and power and has purpose to it, encouraging you to grab onto life again and take action, that's huge. I mean, there's a lot of people out there with, different types of mental health situations. And sometimes it's like you get stuck in planning and not doing. That's a typical thing that happens to entrepreneurs. They're trying to perfect something instead of stepping up and saying, okay, I have to take a few swings, and I realize I may not hit the ball out of the park the first time. I might get a single or a double or a triple out of it, as far as comparing it to baseball, what it is, but you have to keep getting back in the batter's box. Even after you've been hit in the head with the ball, you still have to get in there. So the mirror thing of putting something on the mirror where it's in your face all the time because it means something to you. And the only way you're really going to get deep into it is to have that reminder in front of you. That's good advice for anyone, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. That's if I could narrow it down to one thing, that was just kind of like the switch, because like you said, I was on YouTube all day for about a year. Just
Mhm.
just trying to figure it out. I was getting medically discharged from the military. It was kind of, yeah, you might be, you might not be. So for about 8 months, I was in this little like weird spot in my life where I didn't know where I was going, didn't know if I'd be in the military anymore. And my plan was to do 20 years because I had no other purpose, right? So then I got hit with this, and it was just, oh man, what's next? And so I hopped on YouTube, but I wasn't taking action. But at least I was informing myself. Even if you're listening right
Right.
now, you're informing yourself. You're building that foundation. And that was something at age, I was 22. It felt like I didn't have a foundation. It felt like I was starting back down at zero, and I had to make that first step again, going from 0 to 1. And we all know that's the hardest.
Well, when you talk about YouTube, it really is speaking to educating yourself and looking for those type of videos and people that you see and basically get to know and understand where they're taking you as far as what you're trying to build up on your knowledge. On the flip side, there's a lot of kids and young guys that are losing themselves in TikTok. And it's
Right.
probably affecting them and not in a good way. So it's really what you choose in life as far as what you watch. If you watch a lot of horror films, it probably affects you in some way. I mean, little things. It depends on age. That probably
Yeah.
But, there's a bit of that, or getting lost in gaming, and you're in a different reality
And
than
that's
than life, and you can get unattached that way, can't you?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because that's exactly where I was. You're on my first screen. My second screen right here was the YouTube. So it was my first screen, I was video gaming. The second screen I had YouTube on, and that is way too common. I started that at 13. I built my first computer at 13, and that's why I'm doing kind of the computer end of for Solace Solutions, is I understand a computer well enough to explain it to someone else and explain the system, explain what I'm doing. But yeah, it's all too common having that extra voice in your head of whatever YouTube's playing, and then when you take it off, you immediately feel alone again. I'm right back to where I felt when I started the YouTube video. I'm back to feeling alone again. Where do I go? What action do I take? What's next? What's the next step? You know? And yeah, the gaming is good. I would say to for me, I think I got a lot out of it. I wouldn't have my computer skills without of it. Everything has a great reason behind it, in my opinion. We're all on our own path. We're all trying to figure everything out. And just sadly, it's something new to everyone. Not everyone the world didn't have the internet, you know, 100 years ago, and it's a new thing. It's still a new thing. If you think historically, the internet came out relatively recently. So we're still trying to find out how to use it to our advantage, how not to. And my biggest, the biggest thing I did for myself was in New Year's last year, 2022. I looked at my father, I could still see his face, and I pulled out my phone. I said, Dad, I'm going to learn as much as I can from this so that next year I can start something like this. And January 1st of that next year, I started Solace Solutions.
Well, it has purpose behind it, so, if you're a person in real estate, you're definitely the person to talk to. Give me a little bit of information about the best ways that somebody can reach out to you right now, as far as how you communicate or how you bring in someone who's interested and getting a system of their own. How
Uh,
do you help them? How do they contact you?
just call me. I love talking to everyone. It's the best way to get to know a person, best way to get to know what you're trying to do with your business and your real estate career. It, the words don't necessarily do it justice. So hearing you say it and hearing your tone of voice is what I love the most. But you could email me. You could do. John will pull up my email at the end here. I thoroughly enjoy talking to people. That's what I'm building everything around community. So if we hop on the phone and Solace Solutions isn't for you, maybe end up a guest on the podcast. Who knows? Um, I just get a community built. So call. I would prefer a call, but an email never hurts.
You're out there to help, and that's your heart's in the right place, so anyone can benefit. Yeah, we'll include some details of how to get a hold of you, and at the end, we'll include that. I think we covered quite a bit of the ground. Uh, Mind over matter, that is where? Is it like,
Everywhere.
iTunes? It is. Oh,
Yes.
you could just put it in any browser, and you're gonna find it.
We're working on that. You should find it if you scroll down a little bit on Google. We're relatively new
Well,
still.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, if you
Google's
pull up
Google, that yeah,
yeah, if you pull up iTunes or Spotify, you'll end up seeing us. It's this I'm wearing the
that's the
shirt.
better way.
Yeah, we
Very
got the
good.
logo.
Mind over matter. Excellent. Thanks for showing that. All right. Anything else you want to include about running a business as you are the chief executive officer in that position? You really have to find good people around you. How does that work? How is your team formatted in a way to have the same mindset that you have?
Well, I don't wanna be the guy, but we're all veterans, so we all understand each other extremely well. Um, my VP of sales, he was my first leader in the Army, and he
Oh,
so
right.
yeah, so he really understands how I function. I understand how well he functions. Everyone on the team. I get the biggest thing, I had a young kid, 16 years old. He asked us a little bit about his clothing business so we could get him into the entrepreneur space. And he asked me my biggest 3 lessons in the military, and the biggest one I would say is there's leadership and there's followership. And I didn't learn this for a while. I was that kid hard-headed and didn't wanna listen to anyone, and it just doesn't work. So, it's hard to lead someone if they don't follow correctly, and my leader taught me that, my first leader, Kevin, my VP, and now it's kinda reversed. So, I know that I have a good follower behind me, and if I the proper leader, if I just follow the leading steps, There's no airs. We communicate well. We're leaders, we're followers. Everyone in here does an equal amount of work. We're not sending, it's not divvied up. I'm not doing most of it. He's not doing most of it. It's an equal amount of work distributed amongst all leaders, all followers.
Uh, did you delegate the work based on what people were good at with your team?
Yeah, so actually, yeah, I actually just wrote a Twitter thread about this, finding your natural talent. So I the first thing I do is find what you're good at, and my VP is extraordinarily. He's just really great at talking to people and just getting on the same level as them, and that's why he's talking to people on the phone all day. I work with a computer. I might not be the best guy to talk on the phone all day. I could work with a computer for 12 hours straight, and I know the guy who's good at talking can't. So it's smart to delegate that kind of work. That's how the most work gets done.
Well, leadership has a lot to do with mentoring, doesn't it? And, people have to want to be mentored. And it
Right.
sounds like the way you built the team, that's ingrained. So that just tells the audience, and it certainly fills me in, just how strong the team actually is. That people are there because they want to be there. That's huge in any business. And rather than just trying to pull a check or something, you're actually out there with a purpose. So it's been a pleasure, Trevor, to learn more about you as a person, but also about the business and the podcast, that where your heart is and how you interpolate that, how that fits in with that kind of mindset that you do are showing there with what you do as a CEO in Solace Solutions. So they kind of support each other, even though they're different. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and that wasn't the goal, but that's that's where we ended up, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you for having me on here. I didn't expect something something like this. If I'm being honest with you, you sent me that video, but this is exactly what I enjoy, and I thank you again for even talking to me.
Well, we may meet up on a couple of other topics and where you're at in the future. That would be great. I'll certainly share a few people that I know. We'll go from there and just see if our efforts today to tell your story.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Hopefully, I think I actually explained it pretty well. I feel good about that explanation. you know.
you did. And sometimes it's got to come from the heart. I felt that definitely.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank
excellent. You have a great day. I'll certainly see you soon at some of the networking events you do get around. So that's great. So you're not hard to find. Thanks.
Yeah,
Have a
see
great
you
day.
soon and hopefully see some of the viewers soon.